Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and this is my weekly reading vlog. And if you can believe it, I am not drinking coffee right now. I'm drinking kombucha. Okay, I'm using a different camera. There we go. There we go. Kombucha. I like this kind. Remedy, I get it at Lidl. I don't know, it says it's made in Australia, but it doesn't have sugar, so I like it, and it's very good. This is the orange splash flavor, and I like it. So, and I'm sorry, I look a terrible fright, but that's okay. It's not why I'm here. Okay, anyway, so this is my weekly reading vlog. I had a good week in terms of reading, and the books that I was reading kind of generated a lot of thought and conversation. So, well, I mean, it's kind of a one-sided conversation until you join in the comments. So please do join in the comments with your thoughts about anything that I mention in this video. And I am pleased with the progress that I made this week, although I never did really get started on one of the books that I wanted to. That was my intention. However, it was a good reading week. And a little extra bonus towards the end of the week, I went on a little bit of a yard sailing, thrifting kind of, I don't know what word I was going to use next. It totally went out of my brain, but I went yard sailing and thrifting, and it was fun, so I decided to take you with me. So we have a little bit of that towards the end of this vlog. So I hope you enjoy, and here we go. Hello, it is Monday. The day is Monday. Yes, today is Monday. And I am beginning my weekly reading vlog, getting it started because, first of all, I have a day off. It's Easter Monday, and I don't have big plans for today, but I'm going to be doing some batch filming because I have time and some editing and stuff, trying to get set up for the next week or so. So that's good. That's one thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to clean my room, and I'm going to read. Those are my plans for today, my big holiday plans. Anyway, yesterday, I finished reading A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure by Angela Bell. And this worked for Jane Reed's Christian Fiction Reading Challenge. The challenge for April was to read a book by a new to you author, if I'm remembering correctly. And so Angela Bell is a new author to me. This is, I think, her debut full-length novel. She has some other novellas in collections. As far as I can tell, I don't think she's written any other full-length novels. So I definitely enjoyed my time with this book. It was great. And I've already spoken, quite a bit about it, so I don't need to say too much more. Just overall, to sum up, it's a fun read. It's engaging, it's quirky, it's whimsical, and I loved the themes of trust and learning to let God and other people handle things and not trying to shoulder it yourself, which is in direct opposition to a book I talked about a week or two ago, The Widow and the Highlander by Martha Keyes, where basically it was the opposite message that, I can do this by myself. I don't need anybody to help me, which is really a denial of reality because the character in that story definitely needed someone to help, and the situation was not resolved without the help of other people. So this one was the exact opposite message, which I much preferred. We do need each other every now and then. Not always, every day, all the time, for every single thing, but there are times when we need other people. And there are times when we simply cannot shoulder a burden or carry a burden on our own. We weren't meant to. We were meant to live in community and to walk in community and to help each other. And I feel like that is a much more wholesome and healthy message for a book to be giving than this idea that you can take care of all of your burdens on your own and you don't need anybody to help you. So anyway, that was a main theme in this one, which I really appreciated. I also really enjoyed the emphasis on taking the time to stop and wonder. And even when you're burdened with cares and struggles and trials in your life, that it's vital, and maybe even more so, to take the time to wonder, to ponder, to spend time doing something beautiful and enjoying something beautiful instead of constantly focused on your problems or your issues or what you're worried about, etc. So I enjoy the themes of this overall. The only thing that I struggled with was the the mom in the story, but I've already talked about that, and how she really loved animals. But in the story, the way it was told, I think it was just supposed to provide comic relief. It wasn't something you're supposed to take too seriously. So I'm trying not to do that, but I do have a tendency to take things a little bit too seriously. They don't need to be, but it really annoyed me how she put the well-being of these wild animals over her family. And that, to me, that's just misordered priorities. Yes, God put us on the earth to take care of the animals, etc. But each of us has a priority, number one, to our families, as mothers, to our children. And that really, when a mother is essentially abandoning the needs of her children and putting the needs of wild animals above her children, that's a misordered priority. But again, like I said, shouldn't be taking these things too seriously. It was just supposed to be a funny part of the story. But anyway, overall, it was a very good book and I enjoyed it. I did notice that in a lot of reviews, a lot of people couldn't handle the main character at the beginning of the story, which is understandable to a certain extent, because she was definitely by design, she was difficult to love because she was struggling under a lot of burdens, and she was taking burdens on herself that she didn't need to, and that was creating the character that you saw. But that is the whole point of the book. The whole point is how the fact that she was attempting to solve problems on her own and carry all these burdens on her own independently without assistance from anyone, and taking on responsibility of things that really weren't hers, that was turning her into the person that she was becoming, rather than the person that she was meant to be. And so it's all of this is a journey of her learning to let go of those things, learning to seek joy and wonder and peace instead of holding on to all of those burdens that she's carrying, and then that changes her as a person. So that's really the whole point, which I think is a really valuable message. So if you do read it and you're getting hung up on the main character at the beginning of the story, persevere. It's worth it. There's a definite character development here that happens, and a valuable story that's being told. So, and this is definitely also very much Christian fiction. So I know I saw also in some people's reviews of this that they felt like it was overly Christian, overly preachy. I didn't see it as being preachy. You know how I feel about that. I felt like it was woven into the story. It was part of the story and the characters and the dialogue. And to me, it didn't wander into preachy, moralizing territory. But I think part of the problem was people didn't realize that it was Christian fiction when they picked it up. So I think for someone who is not Christian and is expecting this to be a secular book, it would definitely come across as preachy in that sense. So that is what I have finished so far this week. And can I say I am just delighted to have a book crossed off my list. Next, I'm going to pick up The First Ladies. If I can read through everything that I need to read to stay on track with Count of Monte Cristo and The Life and Diary of David Brainerd today, as well as make significant progress in Pride and Prejudice, then I will pick this one up. But if I don't pick it up today, I definitely will be picking it up this week. At least getting it started in April, even if I don't finish it in April, which is fine. And then I think this is the last one for all of my books that I am committed to reading in the month of April. I think so. Yeah, so I count that as a success. My reading is starting to pick up a little bit. The first quarter of this year was really rough, but it's starting to pick up a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to May, which I will have, you will have seen my announcement video about that I'm planning to mostly just mood read May and read some things for fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that is my update for now. I will film another clip later this week and let you know how the rest of my reading is going. Hello, it's Wednesday afternoon. And here in Virginia, we have skipped over spring and gone to summer. So the temperatures this week are like in the upper 70s into the 80s. And it's just, you know, nice and warm outside. Now we still have like a little bit of chill in the air in the mornings and the evenings. And it just gets really warm in the afternoon. So it's not exactly summer. It's still kind of springy, but I feel like it happens like this. Like we have fits and starts. Winter, spring, winter, spring, winter, spring, winter, spring, and then summer. And not like, you know, a steady, nice springish season. But maybe that's just asking too much. Maybe I'm just expecting too much. Anyway, updates. I just now was reading David Brainerd, The Life and Diary of David Brainerd, and there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention about it that have struck me as I've been reading it recently. One is that I went back and I reread the introduction. Well, I guess before I started the book, I kind of just skimmed the introduction a little bit, which was by Jonathan Edwards, and who was a contemporary of David Brainerd's, and compiled his private journals and edited them. And he had an introduction to it and just kind of gave his opinion, I guess, about what he got out of David Brainerd's personal diaries and his spiritual journey. And I thought it was very interesting, something he pointed out, that after he said it, I was like, oh yeah, I can see that progression. I hadn't really looked at it that way, but that makes sense. So it's easy to see. I mean, you read the first chapter and you realize that David Brainerd is an exceptionally emotional person, and that he's on a very emotional roller coaster. Back then, they called it melancholy. Today, it might be depression or anxiety or a combination of the two. I don't necessarily think that it was, what is that one where you have like extremes of moods? I forget what that's called, where you kind of like swing back and forth from them. I don't think it was that. I think it's just he very often dealt with depression, and he would like fight his way to an extent out of it, but you know, it was always there, like always lurking. And he was never fully free from it. And Jonathan Edwards, and I thought this was a lot of wisdom, and I think that we don't give people from the 1700s the benefit of having this much wisdom, especially in regards to mental health. But he made the point that earlier on in David Brainerd's journals, when he was a very young man, like about to go into college or wanting to go into college, that he equated his bouts of depression, or melancholy as they called it, he equated those bouts of melancholy with what he called spiritual desertion, or being spiritually withdrawn. In other words, he felt like either God had left him or he had left God in those times of depression. But Jonathan Edwards pointed out that as he grew in his spiritual walk with the Lord, as he matured spiritually, he began to realize that those periods of depression were not God was not drawing away from him, and it wasn't even necessarily a sign that he was doing something wrong spiritually. It was separate from his spiritual life to an extent, and that because of that, it began to not affect him so much, because he would get stuck in this really vicious cycle of being so distressed by his depression that he couldn't get out of it. But then when he began to have a more balanced perspective of his emotional life and his spiritual life and his mental life, it didn't affect him in that way, because he began to have a much more steadfast trust in the Lord. So even those moments when he had depression, he still battled with a lot of the same ideas, but on a different level, and it didn't affect him as deeply. And he seemed to be able to rise back up out of the depression a little more quickly. And he seemed to be less incapacitated by it, if it makes sense. So I think that reading these journals would really be helpful for any Christian person who struggles with depression, because I think it will help you to understand that, one, you're not alone, and also it's not a new thing. It's not just a product of our day and age. And I don't think it was that uncommon in the past. I was telling Hope at Hopefully Books, or buddy reading this, and I was telling her, I know that Lucy Maud Montgomery's husband struggled with depression and different people call it different words, spiritual mania or whatever. But there were spiritual things that weighed him down, like questions of doctrine and theology that weighed him down. And in the end affected his mental health. And his depression affected his mental health. And also I know that William Cooper struggled greatly with depression. And there were others that I can't think of at the moment, but I know I've heard and read about well-known Christian thinkers and leaders and spiritual leaders who struggled with depression. It's not a new thing. And depression is not, a modern development. It's something that people have always struggled with to one extent or another. And that it doesn't necessarily mean, another thing that with reading this journal will help you to recognize is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong spiritually. And it definitely does not mean that God has forsaken you or given up on you. 100% does not mean that. That's not at all ever true. And sometimes I think that we can get stuck deeper in depression, or we can exacerbate it by our own spiritual misunderstanding or faulty understanding or willful misunderstanding. I think that's true too. It's not a popular thing to say, but I think it can happen. It doesn't happen always. It's not always even a root cause of depression, but I think it can happen. And I think that David Brainerd illustrates that it did. I think his condition was exacerbated sometimes by his spiritual misunderstandings, and that he grew in that as he matured in Christ. So I think it helps with being able to understand that. And I think overall it might just be encouraging. It may also be discouraging because David Brainerd, he only lived to about 30 years of age. And I wouldn't say that he ever quite overcame depression in the sense that he ever was able to say, it's behind me and I'm not depressed anymore. It's something that he struggled with all of his life. And I'm not sure if that would be encouraging or discouraging to someone. The truth is that he grew a lot in spite of it, and he accomplished a lot in spite of it. And it didn't hold him back from doing the work of the Lord and from accomplishing great things in his life. It was something that that was always there, but it didn't hinder him. So I think that could, in the end, be encouraging. Personally, I think it would be. I don't necessarily deal with depression on a regular basis. I have had periods of depression, but it tends to be like something that, there's a definitive trigger that I can identify in the time periods in my life that I have struggled with depression. But it can be very debilitating for sure. And for someone who struggles with chronic depression, I can imagine even so much more. So I think that this could be a helpful read for someone if you do struggle with depression. So there's that. And then reading The Count of Monte Cristo. I keep telling everybody on my Discord server, I was like, okay, this was not on my bingo card for Count of Monte Cristo. Why don't people talk about these things, okay? Well, first of all, I don't hear a lot of people talking about The Count of Monte Cristo and what goes on in the story, other than that it is a story of revenge. That's all people talk about. And that it's epic, it's really long, of course. That's obvious. That's all I hear about. I don't really hear people talking about things that actually happen in this story. And for a book written in the Victorian times, there are some very shocking elements in this story. And I guess because I'm used to British Victorian literature, which is a very different thing, apparently, from French Victorian literature, those French people. So first of all, I already talked to you about the marijuana usage in this book. And so there's that. And that pops up occasionally. When was apparently, now also, so one reason some people might not talk about this is that in the English versions, my understanding is that the most common English translations, because they are, not copyrighted right now, are from Victorian era or the early 20th century, and they conveniently edited out some of this stuff or softened it in their translations for the English-speaking Victorian audience who would have been offended, the mainstream audience would have been offended by some of the things, and they may not have read this book, so they made it a little more palatable to Victorian audiences. So it may be that a lot of people who have read this book don't even know what is in this, but I'm reading the Robin Buss translation, which is a more modern translation, which of course did not take any pains to edit out any of that kind of stuff, which is fine. Like, I want to read the book as Alexandre Dumas wrote it, so I wasn't expecting some of this stuff. Another thing that's developing, which is a side story, and it's not, I mean, it's all a part of the larger plot, I guess, but it's more of a side story. There is definitely so the relationship is not as much dwelt on as the fact that there is a woman in the story who, let's just say, she is not interested in men. And that is made very clear by Alexandre Dumas, kind of subtly, but not even that subtle. It's obvious. Every time he talks about her, a big deal is made about her appearance, which is, he occasionally describes as, I don't know if he uses the word manly, but that's basically what he's trying to say. And that she's very different from the other girls in the story who are like, models of feminine excellence. There is a dialogue where this character is Eugenie, is her name, where Eugenie notices another woman and is commenting on her beauty in very specific ways, similar to how a man would appreciate the beauty of a woman. So there's just all that kind of stuff that is happening every time this character is brought up. And so just so you know, because not a lot of people are talking about this content in this book. So I'm just letting the world know about that. So it's definitely adding another layer to this reading experience that I was certainly not expecting. But it's not really detracting from it. These things are written in such a way as to be very matter of fact. I guess Alexandre Dumas probably in his day was trying to be a little bit salacious or scandalous and maybe even shocking, even for the French people, but it doesn't come across that way. It just comes across as fairly matter of fact. Maybe that's the translation. I don't know. Just like a mentioning of things. So anyway, it's interesting. And there are minor parts of the larger story that's taking place. So anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. So, and I am continuing with Pride and Prejudice and enjoying that. Of course, why not? But I am, I don't know, I guess about a third of the way through that at this point. So let's see. Page 288, and there are 700 some pages overall, 730 or something like that. So that's, yeah, not quite half, but getting there. And I have not started yet the First Lady. Okay, that's not true. I have read the first 3 to 5 pages of the First Ladies like twice now, and I just haven't been able to get any further than that in the time that I have to read it. So I still have about a week left to finish that, so I'm hopeful that I can actually finish it before April is up, and then I will have actually finished all my April reading in April, which hasn't happened for a couple months, so that would be nice, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. That would be a goal, but it's okay if it doesn't happen that way. So that is what is happening with my reading right now, and I will probably have time to do one more clip before I upload this. So there you have it. That's what I got going on right now. I will see you next time. Hello, it is Friday evening and made it through another work week, and flag football game yesterday, a little bit of running errands today, and prepping for my birthday party tomorrow, which my birthday is not till May, but due to various family schedules, we ended up deciding at the last minute to celebrate tomorrow night. So we had to do some last minute shopping this afternoon to get the food and everything for that tomorrow night. So and tomorrow promises to be a fairly busy Saturday for me. I have, well, there are a couple of community yard sales I want to go to. Yeah, I like to go to community yard sales because like it's more in one place and less driving around and ending up being disappointed by little tiny yard sales that don't have anything, even though you drove 5 miles out of your way to get there. So I do like yard selling, but I mostly only do community yard sales anymore. There are a couple that I know of tomorrow, so I'm going to go to those in the morning. And then I have a meeting with some friends for a brunchish, lunchish sort of thing. And then my birthday party in the evening. So it's going to be a busy day. But I wanted to film this clip because I have put everything else on hold for Pride and Prejudice. I love this book so much. I got to the point in the story where I can't stop. Like, I just want to read it. And it's a good thing it's my birthday celebration weekend, because then I don't feel quite so guilty just sitting here reading it when, you know, normally I would or should be doing other things. So, I mean, I have, you know, taken care of all of my necessary responsibilities in life, but I definitely have spent considerable time this evening just reading this book, and I'm going to continue doing that until it's done, because once you hit the point where, sorry, spoilers if you don't want to be spoiled, the point where Darcy proposes for the first time, and then Elizabeth receives his letter the next day, that is a turning point in the story for both of our main characters. It's a turning point in their character development. The pace of the story picks up significantly from that point, and it's just one, I don't know, I love it from that point on. It's just like amazingness from moment to moment. So I did not read anything else in the Count of Monte Cristo today. I did not read anything else. I only have part of one chapter to finish for the Diary of David Brainerd. Didn't read any of it. I'm still on the same 3 pages or whatever of the First Ladies. I don't care. I'm going to finish reading Pride and Prejudice because that's what I want to do right now. So, yeah, I will catch up on all those other books when I'm done with this one. Okay? So, that's what I'm doing. Good morning. It's Saturday, and much to my chagrin, it rained all night, and it's still raining off and on this morning. There's supposed to be thunderstorms today at some point, so I am not sure about the yard sailing, how well that's going to go. I'm going to try, because the one community yard sale, sorry, I just realizing I must have done my makeup in the dark here or something in my hair. Wow. The one yard sale in previous years when they've had this annual yard sale, they've said rain or shine. They didn't say anything this time, one way or the other, so we'll find out. And then the other one, I asked my friend who lives in the neighborhood, and she said she saw them setting up for it, so we'll see. And also, I'm on a bit of a late start today, so yeah, we'll see what happens. But right now, I need some coffee, so I am at my favorite coffee shop, and it changed hands late last year at some point, and the new ownership has really put a lot of money into making it look really nice, and the coffee's still really good, which is a plus. So they stuck to the same coffee that everybody was used to coming, and it's like one of these small town neighborhood sort of places where everybody goes and gets their coffee, so they knew what people came for, so they kept that. But they've also made it a much more pleasant, like aesthetically pleasing experience. So I'm sitting here in the parking lot, and I just look at the little mural that they've done on the wall here in the little garden seating area. It's so cute. So I'm gonna go get some coffee, and then I'm gonna go yard sailing. So I just got the best deal. Well, I think so. First of all, I'm not taking video here at this community yard sale because it's the kind where people are in their, like, it's at their actual house, and I don't want to be a creeper and be videoing at their house. That's weird. So also the houses have been few and far between in this community that are actually having yard sales. So it's been a little frustrating. So I'm going to go ahead to the other one, which is the kind where like everybody brings their stuff to a central location. It's at the pool in the community. So everything is in one place. So I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to go to my friend's house. But I got the best deal at this last one. He had 3 deck chairs that are like, I like them because the set we have is like wicker with cushions, which is cute and everything. But the problem is the cushions, like they get wet, and then like we have squirrels, and the squirrels dig in them and chew in them and try to build nests in them. And so anytime it rains, we can't sit on them for like until it dries again. This kind is the kind that, you know, it can sit outside in all weathers. It will rain on it, but then it will dry really quick. Or even you can wipe it dry and sit on it. And that's the kind I want. Like, I need easy life, guys. I need easy care. Yes, I don't have time to mess with stuff like that. So anyway, we used to have covers for our deck furniture, but then that's a whole thing. And when you're not covering them, then you have to put the covers somewhere. And then you have to remember to put them back on before it starts to rain. And then even the covers were getting like holes in it. Yeah, I need easy care. These chairs, $3 for 3 chairs. What? The rest of his stuff was like normally priced. So I don't know what's wrong with these chairs. They seem perfectly fine to me. I don't know, but I'll pay $3 for 3 deck chairs. Sure. That was fun, but I did not have time to dig through stuff. They had like all the clothes in heaps and piles, and it was $5 a bag. I probably could have found some great things. I don't have time for that, but I did dig through the books, of course. And they had some great books, but it has to be something I really want. And there wasn't anything that I personally really wanted. They had great books, and I think it was cheap, like $1 a book or something. But I did find this really cute, never before used journal that I paid 25 cents for, which I can either keep and use myself or give as a gift. And then I love using stickers in my calendar. And so this packet of stickers was 75 cents. So I did find some good deals today, and now I'm running late. So I'm going to go to my friend's house, and this will probably be the end of my weekly reading vlog. And also I am going to do one more clip where I will share another channel for you to follow, and then I will see you next time. Bye. Okay, so I know that the last clip I said was going to be my last one, but I just real quick wanted to do one more because I had a little more fun and I just wanted to share it with you. So at my friend's house, we did this activity where she had already painted these tin can, I don't know what it is, like a little tin bucket, and she had already painted them white. And then we decoupaged napkins, these spring napkins, like I cut out the flowers and decoupaged them on there. And then she gave us these dahlias to plant in it. So that is super cute and very springy. And then on my way home, I just was, oh, something else. Another friend of mine, she makes kefir at home. And so she gave me a whole bottle of her kefir. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I went to a thrift store on my way home because I just was in the mood to do that. So I went to a thrift store, and I won't share with you everything I got there, but I did find this book that was 25 cents. This copy of Edith Wharton's House of Mirth, which is not one of the ones that I have. It is one of the ones that I've read, I think, but it's not one that I have. And I want to read more Edith Wharton. So, it's like a vintage copy. Let's see, when was this one printed? 1981. So, and I like that artwork. Like, otherwise it's just a basic, you know, paperback from the 80s, but I like the art on the cover. And the thrift store was having a 50-cent red tag sale. So I got these Not Your Daughter's Jeans pants, like linen pants, in really good condition for 50 cents. What? And they're great for spring and summer because they're lightweight, and I needed some more lightweight pants, so that was a really good deal. And this evening I'm going to celebrate my birthday, and so it's going to be a great day. And now I am officially going to close this out, and this will be the end. Well, also I'm still going to do the booktuber shout out clip, so that will be the end. But for now, bye.
And here we are to spin for another booktuber for you to follow, should you desire. And it's Molly. I was just watching Molly's May TBR video just now. I love Molly. I just, we do read a lot of similar things, and we have a lot of similar perspectives, I guess, is the way to say it. And also, both of us struggle to make shorter videos. Like, we just can't stop talking, I guess. I don't know. But I love her long chatty videos, and I love her personality, and she's just a joy to watch. So go check out Molly Popplewell and enjoy. And for realsies now, bye-bye.